All right, y'all, I want to show you how to plant a sapling. It's very, very easy. Let's talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about timing, talk about pots, and we're going to talk about the actual how-to. So first, let me hit the timing. Here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, we recommend planting these between, say, October, thereabouts, and into February, thereabouts. Earlier is better because it gives these roots a chance to establish in its new location. And that means that when summer rolls around, there's going to be lots of root development and you're not going to have to water the plant. The later you plant, the more you're probably going to have to water in summer. So you can technically plant after February. You could plant in March, you could plant in April or May if you wanted to. But now these trees don't have a chance to establish before summer comes, which means you're going to have to do a lot more watering. So best to plant October, November, December if you can. But it could be January, February if you must, or even up until spring, knowing that you'll have to do some more watering. Okay, let's talk about pots for just a second. You can pot these trees if you want to, but if you do, you will run the risk that the roots will circle around the inside of the pot. Then we lose what is the very benefit of planting saplings, which is having these beautiful root structures. Let me show you what happens when you put it in a pot. So this right here is a 2-year-old sapling that we potted up. This is going to be a problem for this tree later. I've worked with trees for many years, and we often will find a tree that's died maybe 10 or 15 years after it's planted, and oftentimes it's because the roots are so badly malformed from having grown in pots or being severed when they were taken out of the field, which is known as a bulb and burlap. So we would strongly encourage you, if you can, go ahead and just plant it right in the ground with these beautiful roots. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to plant these. They really, truly are very easy. So there's 2 ways you can do this. I'll show you 2 techniques I use. One is I just stab the shovel in the ground, I wedge it open, and if you want to bring the camera around here, you can see it sort of forming this wedge back here. And you can place the roots in there. You want to make sure they're facing down, which these are. And then I would simply step on this to close it up. And then I'd recommend maybe just touching it up by hand, putting some wood chips, some leaves around. It's really that easy, truly, truly. All right, I'll show you one other technique. I'm gonna pull this little fella right back out. This is a little more complicated, but it might be better for like if you're doing live stakes or something. So we basically, on this one, I'm gonna set this tree down here. We make an X first, so this way. That's one. The other part of the X is here, okay? Then you can come in on one of the long sides of the X and you can just lift it up and you get this nice little area in the center. And I'll take this sapling and I'll put it in the middle and you go down. Now I will tell you, this is not going to work as well for certain kinds of plants. Like in my opinion, this is not a great technique for this plant. And I probably, if I wanted to do this technique with this plant, I would need a different shovel. This is just a short shovel, but you get the idea of how that works. For certain saplings, live stake, stuff like that, that's really a nice way to do it. However you plant it, I recommend put some wood chips around it. Arborist wood chips, don't use designer mulches. They're just not as good. Put some leaves around it, whatever you've got, tuck it in nice and snug. And make sure, basically, I mean, you can kind of see, this is where the roots begin. So roots go underground, stem goes above ground. It's just that easy. It really is that easy. I would say I've done 30 an hour with these, which is fast, but a comfortable pace. You can plant 15 to 20 per hour, if not more. So I hope that's helpful. Last thing to consider, if you have a lot of deer in your area or rabbits, you may need to protect your saplings. So for that, I would recommend you can either use something like this, you can get chicken wire, whatever you'd like, all kinds of things you can either buy or get free on Craigslist. People are often giving away chicken wire. And all you do is you just make a loop. You can just make a loop around your tree. Make it nice and big so it has space to grow, and give it some protection. I'd recommend, especially for a young tree, you know, 3-4 feet tall potentially. Just depends on the pressure you've got in your area. If you're protecting many trees, you're not going to want to individually wrap each tree. It's going to be a lot of work. So for that, I'd recommend using traditional deer fencing. You can buy this stuff, or my favorite solution is just hammer some poles in the ground every 20 feet, run fishing line between them, and that will spook the deer. So when they touch the fishing line, they don't know what it is. It spooks them, they run away. It's more of a psychological barrier.